So this is a review for Calling Dr. Porky, released in 1940. It's the 300th in the series, and it's directed by Friz Freleng. Currently, at the time of this recording, it's available on the Porky Pig 101 DVD set. However, it's unrestored there, and it's got the wrong title music. Since then, it has been restored in high definition. It's sort of lurking around. Hopefully one day it'll make its way on physical media. There's a lot of early Porky Friz shorts that are in black and white that are in the public domain. Sadly, this is not one of them, so I can't show you the full thing here on YouTube. Warner Brothers can choose to add it on their own channel if they choose to do so, but they don't seem to want to put the black and white ones in general. But again, hopefully this will come on to physical media so you can watch it anytime you want to. But in case you haven't seen this one, not really much to it. You have Porky, who is a doctor at a hospital, and eventually a drunk dog wants to be cured by Dr. Porky because he's being harassed by pink baby elephants. So, not much to it. It's an interesting idea though. Now in terms of trivia, the title itself is a play on the 1939 film Calling Dr. Kildare, and that's the second in the MGM series that adapted Dr. Kildare. And that comes from a series of novels that came out earlier on, and that was popular enough to have movies made not long after the novels were released. Sometimes a novel will be released and any adaptation wouldn't occur for another decade or so, but in this case it was fairly quick. But what we're going to do is go through this short from start to finish and go through some of the extra references here. Because the last time I saw this short was on the Porky Pig 101 set, and wrong title music aside, I thought this one was a very bizarre one. There's one element here that could have benefited from this short being in color, and I'll definitely go through that once we get to it. But I like the title music, so when the short opens up, you hear Jeepers Creepers, and Porky himself was in a short called Jeepers Creepers, directed by Bob Clampett, which is one of my favorites of his 30s output with Porky, despite the fact around that time he was getting tired of using the character. I'm not sure if Friz Freleng has ever said he got sick of using Porky or anything, but he did a lot of shorts where he didn't actually sideline Porky. He did Porky's baseball broadcast, which sort of sidelined him a bit, but he still had a prominent role there, so at least he did something with the character. But we open up to what the hospital actually is, and I love the joke here, and this might go over some people's heads, but it goes, Neuritis Hospital. We take pains, we have lots of patients. Love the bottom bit. We take pains, we have lots of patients, so patience, I'm sure you get the point there. Top one might go over some people's heads, but neuritis is a play on neuritis, and that's an inflammation of a nerve or nerves, and that leads to pain. And that's just a general definition. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but it's based off of an actual condition. But I love the rendition of Jeepers Creepers here. It definitely sounds different. It definitely sounds a lot more upbeat. It's certainly not the last time you'll hear Jeepers Creepers in a Looney Tunes short, but in this case, I love the rendition here. And right away, we get a very funny joke here, which seems to acknowledge the fact that the title is based off of a very popular movie. In fact, that movie came out in 1939. This would have been in production in 1939. Maybe they did the title later because of how long these shorts take in terms of actual production. But we hear Sarah Berner. She does the voice of the secretary. That's the only voice she does here. And she's got that wonderful New Yorker type accent that she would sometimes do in some of these shorts. But I love how she acknowledges, oh, after Dr. Kildare, sorry, you've got the wrong picture.
Dr. Kildare, I'm sorry you got the wrong picture. Hello, Neuritis Hospital. Patient in 406. Just a moment, and I'll find out for you.
She ends up looking for patient 406, and I guess he doesn't have really good health insurance because he's just in a drawer like that. That's a pretty dark joke if you think about it, but oh, well, I guess they've got to put some of the patients somewhere. I mean, he seems happy enough when you see him. And by the way, you've probably heard it a million times in a lot of Looney Tunes shorts, but that whole, could be, that comes from Artie Orbach and his character, Mr. Kitzel. And basically, every time you hear, could be, or it's a possibility, that's where that all comes from.
Feeling all right today?
Could be.
Hello, yeah, the patient is doing nicely.
And actually, you see that the receptionist is in front of a switchboard because back then, it was all done manually. Yeah, now they got automatic switchboards, of course, but yeah, that's definitely something from a bygone era. But we see one of our main characters, this drunken dog-type character. I've always enjoyed Mel Blanc's drunken voice, and the animation's no slouch either. I just love the whole drunken look of this character. But I like the twist on this, how you've got this drunken character, but he really is pursued by all these pink elephants that we see later on. But that voice acting is incredible by Mel Blanc, how he does all those hiccups as well as he's trying to actually say what's wrong with him. And even ends with, is there a doctor in the house? And that's your typical saying where all these shorts and movies and such back then were played in theater houses. And it's typically used when someone's injured and it's like, is there a doctor in the house? So is there a doctor in the audience that can help someone that's injured? So it's your typical trope.
Pardon me, I'm in need of the services of a reliable physician, surgeon, an osteopath. Is there a doctor in the house?
And I love the animation where the secretary's hand points out where this drunken dog needs to go, and the amount of time he takes just to acknowledge that, oh, thank you, I need to go this way, and he just staggers around for a bit, even puts his nose back on the finger as well. So it's incredible work here. Again, not just by Mel Blanc's vocals, but also the animation of the character. Now we see those elephants follow after him, and this is actually a unique cue by Carl Starling. It sounds like something that he might have aped from maybe a movie or something, but no, this is something that he actually came up with. It's like an elephant parade type theme. And so Carl Starling was certainly no slouch at coming up with his own cues, and this is definitely one of them. Of course, it's funny when he does all those musical puns, but in this case, he made up something unique and it definitely works. Now, I was alluding before that this probably would have been a little bit better if it was done in color, and that's simply because the elephants are pink, but they're not pink here. Is it a big deal? Not really, because you're told they're pink elephants, so you just imagine that they're pink elephants, but I think the effect would have been better if you could see if they were pink in color, but oh well, it is what it is. But we continue this wonderful animation of this drunken character just walking along and then realizing that he's still got those elephants following him. Just the stagger is incredible the way it's done. And it mentions 130 million people and they had to pick me. And that was roughly the population of the US at the time this short was made. But this is also a great scene in slow-mo. In fact, if you're studying animation, if you want to learn how to draw someone walking around all staggered, this is actually a great one to pick. So we then get a bit where he tries to escape from these elephants, but to no success, so he peeks over, the elephants are there, and so on. I have to admit, one of the weaker points of this short is that it does take a little long to actually get started. It's like, yes, we get the point. He wants to go away from these elephants. And yeah, we're 2.5 minutes in, and we finally do see Porky. But I like how Porky Pig, he seems to have a lot of different kinds of doctorates and honors in that, because MD, so obviously that's your typical doctor of medicine, but the other stuff, yeah, means nothing. RSVP obviously means something there. The other two I think are just gibberish, but if they do mean something and I've overlooked something, definitely let me know in the comments below. But I like the fact operations, $15. Wow, that's pretty cheap. In today's dollars, it would be about $342, and $25 would be about $571. To be fair, that's pretty good price for surgery. Usually they cost now many thousands and thousands of dollars, so I wonder if Porky Pig went to the same medical school as Dr. Nick Riviera. Well, there's my Simpsons reference for this review, but that's still a pretty good price, and I don't know why you wouldn't choose the hem stitching, but then again, the US did just come out of the Great Depression around this time, so maybe people would have done hem stitching themselves. Who knows? But we see Porky and this other patient, which is a good way to introduce things and see how Porky actually is as a doctor, but I just love this design of Porky, these early Friz Freleng Porky Pigs that he did in the early 40s. There's just something about that design that's unique compared to what Clampett was doing and so on. It's like he took Clampett's design, but slightly altered it to suit his own sensibilities. But we get a silly little joke, you know, I got these dizzy spells and my head spins round and around. Sure, why not?
Good morning. What's the matter with you?
I don't know, Doc. I get dizzy spells. My head keeps going around and around. See?
We can fix that. Here, you take 2 of these pills 1/2 hour before eating.
And he seems to cure that first patient pretty well. He just gives him a few headache pills, and we hear nothing about that patient again. Will he be cured? Is Porky a good doctor? Who knows? And no, we don't need to know. I'm just being silly. So this drunken character now knocks on the door and smashes Porky into the door in the process, saying, "You gotta help me, you gotta help me." You know, looking at this short, I'm wondering if this would have flowed better if we didn't even actually see the elephants. Maybe this would have worked a little bit better where we started off with the intro bit saying, "Hey, I need to see a doctor. I've got this pink elephant's after me." We see that he's drunk and so on. Yep, go to this room. Then we see this other patient, and then we see him going through the door or saying, "You got to help me, doc." And we all think, oh yeah, it's probably just drunk. But then it's revealed later on that we've got these elephants involved. What do you guys think? Do you think it would have worked better that way? Let me know in the comments below.
You gotta help me, Doc. You just gotta. There's millions, thousands, there's 100, there's a bunch of elephants following me. They won't leave me alone. You gotta help me, Doc. You gotta help me. You just gotta help me.
And now just take it easy.
Porky reassures him and says, "Take it easy, sit down, and let's see what we can do." I like the fact that Porky doesn't even examine him. He just says, "Oh, I'll just get your prescription and that's it." So maybe Porky's not a good doctor? I don't know. But we now see the pink elephants enter, and they're now sporting those nurses' hats. Again, I still think it would have been more funnier if this is the first time you see those elephants versus before, because then it's like, oh, he really is seeing elephants. But anyway, but we see that the pink elephants actually talk, and that's Blanc doing the voice, obviously sped up there. And they proceed to examine him. And we see all sorts of weird and wonderful examination methods that the elephants do. Nothing too special here, but it's just your usual, hey, this guy sounds kind of weird with all the weird sound effects, and one of them even gets kicked when checked for his reaction in his knee, and we even hear some music in his chest. So just nothing too special here, but you do have to wonder where Porky is in all of this. I mean, how long does it take to get a prescription? But there's really no punchline to all of that. We just cut to the next scene where we got the three elephants conversing over what they need to do for this patient. This shot is actually kind of weird if you really think about it. So the elephants put him in this chair, which looks more like a dentist chair if you really think about it, but whatever, it's not like there was too much attention to detail on these sort of things. Or maybe Porky doubles as a dentist, I don't know. Maybe he's that good. I mean, if you look at his door, he's got all those different initials there. Maybe he really is a dentist on the side. But again, where's Porky? Maybe this is the point where Freeling starts to get kind of sick of him. But again, in other shorts though, Freeling was fine to use Porky, but in this one, he seems to be much more interested in the idea of focusing on this drunken dog character. Maybe he just did this one out of obligation. Now, for some weird reason, these three elephants just interrogate him like it's a courtroom, which is so bizarre. This short is very, very strange. It starts off with a good idea, and then it just evolves into this. So he's asked questions, where were you on this certain night? The dog even says objection. The elephant says objection overruled. One says, hey, pick a card. Such a bizarre scene.
I live at...
Married? Single? How old are you? Don't evade the question. Answer yes or no.
I object.
Objection overruled. That'll be all. You're a witness.
Who was that woman I saw you with last night? Where's your driver's license? Where did you get that hat? Pick a card.
And then the elephants just become all obnoxious when the dog says, hey, take it easy, fellas, I'm a sick man. They're not very sympathetic, are they, these elephants? Wow. Later on, McKimson would direct a few shorts involving some very obnoxious pigs. I wonder if these elephants were an inspiration for those really obnoxious pigs. I mean, you can definitely see it.
Now take it easy, fellas. I'm a sick man.
Now take it easy, fellas. I'm a sick
But where is Porky in all of this? So finally, the dog just can't take it anymore, and he just says, let me out of here, let me out of here. And then we see Porky. Doesn't Porky realize that his patient is talking to some imaginary elephant things? It's a very oddly structured short, but we see Porky, he's got something to give to this dog.
Here, drink this. This'll fix you up.
And the drink actually works, so it's probably some sort of a hangover cure because he ends up going from looking disheveled to a respectable gentleman again. Even his hair gets all fixed up, so, that's some drink there. And the elephants end up disappearing, and I love Trigger Brown's sound effect there, which of course is used in the beginning of every Looney Tune Merry Melody short around this time. But he's seemingly cured, he leaves, and Porky seems to be happy at another job well done. I wonder how much money he made from this particular session where this guy could have just gone to any pharmacy to buy a hangover cure of some kind, like bicarbonate of soda or whatever, but anyway. But in one bit here, where Porky says, bye, make sure you take your medicine, you see the drunken dog talk in a normal voice, and it just shows how great Mel Blanc was as an actor, how he was able to do a drunken version and a sober version of the same character, and you still believe it's the same type of voice coming out from the same character.
Bert, take your medicine 3 times a day.
So long, Doc. You certainly did the work.
But in a bit of a punchline, it's not a particularly strong one, but I guess it's a punchline. We see that he actually sees some elephants on the street, and clearly it's some sort of parade, maybe for a circus or something. And we even hear the song cue, Parade of the Animals. There's actually only 2 song cues here, and the rest are original compositions by Carl Starling. But we see behind that the 3 elephants have returned, and they're attached at the end of the real elephants. But I like how Carl Starling incorporates the cue, where you hear Parade of the Elephants, and then he puts his own cue at the very end, how it just all goes from one to the other in the way it's done. This short is definitely better in terms of some of the technical details behind it, rather than the short itself. So the elephants end up stopping their parade and end up chasing after this dog character once again. So he ends up running back to the hospital, past Porky, who's still outside for some reason, through the hospital. And by the way, I just also want to point out, got some wonderful backgrounds here of this hospital. It's still sort of the modern style that was around. It would go away around this time as the 30s go into the 40s, because this would have been done in late 1939. It's still a wonderful design. So he ends up going in a room, tries to go in the hospital bed, the 3 elephants kick him out and cover themselves, and that's it. Like, there's not really much to this. All right. So Freeling, when he came back from MGM, he started to do Porky's again. He sort of had to start at the bottom again. He couldn't go back to doing the Merry Melodies, the more expensive stuff, right? So you have to climb the ladder again, essentially. So he's done some Porky shorts. With this one, he puts Porky in a prominent role, which is the Doctor, but he's also not the starring character either. He's still a bit more than what Clamper was doing in some of his shorts, that's for sure, but in this case, it's quite clear that the writer and then Freeling was more interested in that other character. This one, again, the details are probably more interesting than the short itself. Is it a terrible short? Not really, but it feels like they're just going through the motions with this one. The story isn't particularly strong. It isn't particularly ha-ha, and it's very awkwardly paced too, especially once Porky gets involved. He says, I'm going to get your prescription, and then when we're left alone with this dog and those 3 elephants. And the punchline isn't particularly strong either. Would I rather watch this than a Buddy short? Of course, but then again, Buddy is at the bottom of the rung, isn't he? So this one's like 5.5 out of 10. It's fine and it's okay. It's not particularly great, but I'm glad it's restored and I can see some of the extra details in this one. But all in all, it's one of the more forgettable entries released in 1940. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
That's all, folks.